Oh boy. Alright. Recently I've heard the news that Spyro 4 is not going to be a platformer. I am working on deeper videos that go into more details on the individual Spyro games, including one that goes over the details as to why Spyro is in fact a Wario-like series and should be treated as one. So I guess keep an eye out for those. However, this isn't really about that right now because Spyro 4 isn't supposed to be a platformer. Apparently. So apparently the company or whatever that's investing in the development of Spyro 4, I think, which, okay. Currently on the website, the genre it's listed under is adventure, which is the most vague video game genre label ever. Which is why I'm kind of hoping that Toys for Bob hasn't completely gone insane and is making it a RPG, God forbid. The last time we tried a Spyro RPG, well, let's see, there was 2 times. The first time, it was an actual disaster. The second time, it ended up becoming its own franchise. I will say, however, the adventure game genre is super vague, and it might have just been called an adventure game to be more interesting to investors. This is because the adventure game genre is a massive umbrella, which contains things from RPGs like Deltarune to first-person shooters like Half-Life 2. There's also genre labels that are kinda redundant, like Run and Gun, for example. Oh, what's that? You think Cuphead and Mega Man are platformers? No. You see, they're actually run and guns. Or you think Hollow Knight and Metroid are platformers? Or maybe you think that Metroid is a run and gun? No, they're not that. They're Metroidvania. They're all platformers. They're just different narrative, different narrative, what am I saying? Okay, hold on. They're just structured differently. They're fucking cookies! They're fucking cookies! But yeah, Spyro 4 not presenting itself as a platformer proudly is going into a big concern I have about Spyro 4, and that's the fact that it's literally going to fail to live up to Spyro 1 yet again. If I'm being brutally honest, all the Spyro games after the PlayStation 1 original have failed to live up to my expectations of the PlayStation 1 original. Not even Reignited really lived up to my expectations. Sure, it made the dragons all hot, but that's about it. Not to mention, Reignited had the huge problem of neutering Spyro's personality. Original Spyro felt more like he'd probably kill someone for looking at him the wrong way. Reignited Spyro feels too soft. He still has to spunk a little bit, but it's really sanded down. Not to mention, a lot of the weird dragon culture is also kind of phased out in exchange for sanitary, Super Mario, easy to understand slop. Spyro 1 on PS1 was great, mostly because the way it handled dragons was just so perfect. Of course, these spaces are going to feel really liminal and weird. These aren't designed with human culture in mind. These are designed with dragon culture in mind. Of course, not all the dragons are going to be bipedal or quadrupedal. They're going to see them in various different postures, and there's even some body language going on there that kind of tells us why they're doing that, which I'll reveal when I do my proper Spyro 1 video. Hell, there's even instances where Spyro does stand up on 2, and I'm not even just talking about, like, beta content. No. Like, straight up, even in the final game he does this. But they cut that out for rather keeping him on 4s the entire time like he's some kind of talking dog. Which he isn't. Like, I know you shouldn't be taking reference from other franchises for another Dragon franchise, but seriously, Wings of Fire is probably one of the best references for what Spyro 4 should feel like. I mean, a little bit more lighthearted and silly because it is a Wario-like after all, but seriously, give us some good stakes. Make the stakes actually feel high for once. Also, take advantage of the fact that Spyro is a child, and that all the previous adventures from Spyro 1 to 3 only happened because Spyro was their only hope in that situation. Make a Spyro 4 be a game where Spyro isn't their only hope, and thus we have to be overshadowed by the fact that we are a child in this game, and that would be so cool and so awesome. Not to mention, I'm already worried enough that they're going to cut post-trilogy characters. Well, except for Cinder and Malfour, because apparently they're important because you need Malfour for Cinder, and Cinder is not the only interesting character from post-trilogy. We have other interesting characters that didn't get As I was saying, there are post-trilogy characters that basically didn't get properly executed because of the general rush development cycles most Spyro games go through. I can list them off really quickly. Miss Shoutfire supposedly was going to be a motherly character towards Spyro, but was kind of relished to a very simple stay-in-one-place NPC. Ignitus was supposed to be a father figure to Spyro, but from what I know, apparently his whole story arc was rushed because, you know, rush development. Red was supposed to be I'm cutting off my own words again. Was supposed to be the first antagonistic dragon in the series, which has a lot of cool things to do with it, especially since he isn't a downright god like Red, like Malfor. It's just also, fuck, I can't believe I forgot to mention them. Flame and Ember, the two other playable dragon characters. Okay, technically they're just skins, but whatever. From what I can tell, Flame was probably originally going to be a rival character, which is funny because at the time, there were a lot of rival characters in platformer series, and Flame just made perfect sense. Not only did he share the colors with the main antagonist of the game, but he also was around the same size and proportions of Spyro, which leads me to believe that, yeah, Red was probably going to be a rival. And then there's Ember. What the fuck was Ember's deal? Okay, she pretty much was just Spyro's equivalent of Amy Rose, which works perfectly fine. He already has two characters that are perfectly fine love interests, and then he has the one who's the weird stalker character, which is perfectly fun for Spyro's whole rockstar personality. Not to mention, Spyro 3 also basically doubled down on the pagan motifs that the PlayStation 1 original had for the dragons. Pretty much basically saying they got rushed out of their land by a royal tyrant. You know, that sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it? You know, if you have read actual history. By the way, I'm not treating paganism as an aesthetic. I actually do have some heritage that makes it valid for me to talk about this kind of stuff. And I do feel seen by these dragons just because of the fact that they actually showed that kind of stuff. Also, quadrupedal dragons, like the posture where they stand on all fours, all intimidating and shit, that's cool as fuck. And it makes them, oh my god, I can't structure my sentence right. When they stand on twos, it makes it even cooler, because you usually see them on all fours, and you can't see the cool patterns on the underbelly all the time, and it's just so cool. I mean, you could make it so cool, but you don't make it cool. Okay, this video branched way off our topic. I'm circling. Okay, circling back around to what I was gonna go on with Spyro 4 not being a platformer. Supercharged gates and pads and ramps. Okay, bring back the supercharged ramps. I know people act like that was like the worst part of Spyro 1 sometimes, but no. It was actually pretty good, it's just poorly executed. The concept of a supercharged ramp is generally a really good mechanic. Look for a sloped piece of terrain and then slide down it. Or not slide down it, charge down it. That's what I was gonna say, yeah. Anyway. However, the sequels, rather than doing that, did things like supercharged pads and gates. These mechanics suck. Like, mega balls. Don't do those. Bring back the supercharged ramps and just implement them better than the PlayStation 1 original, which is really easy to do since all you have to do is not make the risk so large if you fuck up the jump. AKA less death pits. But yeah, pretty much if Spyro 4 fails to live up to my expectations of a new Spyro game, yet again, I'm just gonna see about if I could ever get my hands on the license myself or get on some sort of development team for another Spyro game so I can prevent it from being shit again. Toys for Bob, please do not fail us again by making another Spyro RPG that turns into a completely independent franchise from the Spyro series. I guess that's how I end the video. I don't really know how to end this video. This isn't a proper scripted video, so just, I guess I'll see you when I do my actual Spyro 1 video. Also, by the way, the actual lore of Spyro 1 implies that the Norks aren't just some villain faction that came out of nowhere. It implies that the dragons made the Norks and they made them as servants for the Dragon Kingdom. There's actual lore implications in the original game. So, like the PlayStation 1 original. Toys for Bob overshadows this. This will be the most disappointment I have ever felt in a Spyro game. Because not only does the PlayStation 1 original keep this thing around, but fucking Spyro 2 understands the fact that the Norks serve the dragons. You would be fucking